even with the homestead exemption. On my fixed Social Security income, I simply cannot afford this 427% increase. And because of my property is classified as having received an abatement, I have been denied loop. Moreover, and not because I would want to, I am not allowed to sell, rent, or refinance for approximately another 2.5 years because of the imposed soft lien of the Home Start program. I ask for your support and passage of this ordinance extending loop to abated low, moderate income, subsidized affordable homes purchased from the city and/or other nonprofit agency. Our passage of this bill would allow me and others like me to remain in their home where I have lived for the past 12.5 years without the threat of tax delinquency or foreclosure. I thank you very much again, for the time and the assistance and for the opportunity to submit my letter of support for this ordinance. I also want to extend a sincere thank you to my councilperson, Councilman Johnson. And I want to say that I see a red here, but this process and the fact that you listened to us and you submitted this bill because of our concerns has given me, and I know it has given me the belief that yes, the government can work for the people sometimes. And thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. We need to hear that every now and then. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Alan Taylor, commenting on 140638.
Yes,
Morning.
Good morning to council and everybody in the session. My name is Alan Taylor, and I too have moved to the 1900 block of Carpenter Street under the PHDC housing program for low and moderate income. When we moved on this block, wasn't really a desirable, which we call desirable neighborhood. We had our share of shootings. I used to come home 1, 2 o'clock in the morning from work, have drug dealers asking me what did I want to purchase. This neighborhood fell under John Street's Safe Street initiative. So it wasn't people really breaking their neck to move in this neighborhood. Now, every week, myself and neighbors in my neighborhood, we get letters from real estate companies, requesting to buy our properties. Everybody wants to buy our properties now. After we went through the hard times, everybody wants to come in and just slide on in. You didn't go through the hard times, we did. As Richard said, our taxes has increased. My taxes went from $1,200 a year to $4,300. The change in the neighborhood has been slow, and very difficult. But we toughed it out. There's been no shortage of research done and articles written about the impact of gentrification on a targeted community. Timothy Williams, in a New York Times article, highlighted the efforts in not only the city of Philadelphia, but Boston, New York, Detroit, and across the nation in efforts to help citizens threatened by gentrification. Also in that article, it's a quote, City Council President Dal Clark. I don't know if you were president then, Mr. Clark, but it said, those that toughed it out should be rewarded. My neighbors and I have toughed it out. Okay. I was up pretty early this morning online looking at the sustainability initiative, and a lot of things I read in there, the word data was used. Every 10 years, the Census Department comes past, and they collect information or data, however you want to word it. But nobody has a program to collect data on people who are pushed out of their neighborhood or taxed out of their neighborhood because of gentrification. I never seen a program that dealt with that. Who gets pushed out of their neighborhood because of gentrification? No data is kept on that, to my knowledge. I'm here today to ask council to support the low, moderate income people who moved in this neighborhood, try to make this neighborhood better. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your testimony. I actually think I was council president when I made that statement. You mentioned the Community Sustainability Initiative, and we actually had a pretty good meeting the other night at WHYY, and there were a lot of issues that came up that were not, in fact, in the document. The sole primary purpose of not only just that meeting, but the subsequent meetings that are going to be held throughout the city is just for that, so you can talk about some of the things that are not in it. That issue did come up about the concerns about gentrification. So as we move ahead and finalize the document/tool, that will be a very integral part of that component to do tracking on how the demographics change as a result of increase in value. So thank you for your information. Yeah.
Charles Bode, commenting on 130656.
Thank you. My name is Charles Bode. I'm with the West Powelton Saunders Park RCO. We have been led to understand that on Bill 130656, which we understand is on final passage, that it has been going through council for approximately a year, but that it's going to be amended today before final passage. And so our comments do not relate to the actual bill, but rather we request that when amendments are made to any bill, that the revised bill be posted on the council's website for the community to review before a final vote is taken, so that the community can understand what is happening and comment on it if necessary. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir, for your testimony. Thank you very much.
George Krakulik, commenting on 130656.
Good afternoon. I'm George Krashulik. I'm a lawyer at Duane Morris, and I represent Clear Channel. And I think I can say on behalf of the entire billboard industry, we thank the council, particularly Councilman Heenan and his staff, for continuing to work so hard and to try to understand the issues that the billboard industry faces. The billboard industry is well aware of the perception of others in the community. We are very grateful, however, to have rules that we can understand, puts everyone on an even playing field. We understand also that there are amendments potentially being circulated. And again, thank you very much. Thank you so much for all of your efforts. We still feel that there is work to be done so that the industry can, again, understand what the rules and the regulations are, and again, be on a level playing field. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your testimony, sir.
Alan Kessler, commenting on 130656.
Good morning.
Good morning. Alan Kessler, also of Duane Morris. Mr. Council President, members of council, I can't have my partner say nice things and not follow up as well, because I will never hear the end of it from Councilman Heenan. Not here to comment substantively on the bill. As my partner said, there's more work to be done on this subject, but I do want to take special notice and recognition of Councilman Heenan, his staff, Courtney Voss. This has gone on now for probably close to 2 years, this effort. I don't know how many meetings, phone calls, how much time of the councilman and his staff we've taken up on this bill. At all times, they've shown great patience, an interest in really digging into the issues and learning the business, being sensitive not only to the industry, but to the administration and to others that have an interest in this industry. So again, I'll be short, but I just wanted to make sure we thank the councilman and his staff for the great work that they've done thus far. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you for your testimony.
Mary Tracy. Commenting on 130656.
Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. President and distinguished members of council. I'm honored to be here, and before I say anything about the bill, I just really want to thank Councilman Heenan. I don't think there's anybody on this council that would have taken on this onerous task of trying to bring the cats together, and I don't think they ever will. Frankly, you know, the billboards are a burden and a blight to neighborhoods, and you know, I think that the councilman is trying to do the best that he can to make this more palatable. And I think he's almost there. I think he has, and I think that you're never going to please both sides. Certainly, we're really concerned about the brightness of these signs. They're already, you know, 3 times brighter than a conventional sign, but it's come down, and so hopefully it will come down some more, but if not, I think we can live with it. I also think that the trade-ins, we have 1,900 billboards throughout the city, and it would be great to have higher trade-ins, but I think there's been concessions made, and you know, we'll be able to live with that, and I appreciate that. There's 2 things I really wanted to just address. The one is that we have a real problem in the city with those, a few of them, I don't think any of them are here, that haven't really been complying with the rules that we've had for over 20, 30, 40, in some cases 45 years. And the Federal Highways is very concerned about this. We have some court cases that have never been taken down, so I think when we do the trade-ins, perhaps the city could do a priority list that before you can put a new digital sign up, you need to take those signs down that are out of compliance, that have court-ordered, declared illegal, or they're in violation of the Highway Beautification Act. That way the city doesn't pay the burden of removing illegal signs, and they still can get their digital, but it brings them, you know, to a place where they're not getting down some old sign that they don't really want anywhere anyway. The other thing is that there's a whole thing about height, and we've been really looking at the gateways into the city, and you know, I've never been a fan of billboards, but I find the lower they are, the less intrusive they are. And so part of this bill is to say, if, you know, when we redo our highways, and we're spending billions of dollars to do that, if there's a new sign that for traffic safety that says get in the right-hand lane, then if I have a billboard, I can put my sign up above that. Also, if we have sound walls so that our residential neighborhoods are more, you know, it's quieter, I can put my billboard higher. So I think there's 2 ways we can settle that. One is let's just require clear sound walls, especially if the community wants them anyway. Then there's no problem. You don't have to raise them. You keep the billboards. You can still see them. So if they have clear sound walls, that should be not allowed to go above it. And then I think that would help to get our gateways. I'll end with that. Maybe I'll be back next week. But again, thank you all for listening to the community's concerns and making this a better bill.
Thank you for your testimony.
There are no other speakers on the public comment list, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. That concludes our public comment session. We will now move forward with our calendar for today. Mr. Decker, could you please read the title of 140950?
A resolution authorizing the Commissioner of Public Property to execute and deliver to the Philadelphia Redevelopment Authority without consideration deeds conveying conditional fees, simple title to certain city-owned lots or pieces of ground with the buildings and improvements thereon, situated in the 3rd Ward of the City of Philadelphia.
Chair recognizes Councilwoman Blackwell.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the adoption of the resolution. Second.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Ayes have it. Resolution 140950 has been adopted. Mr. Decker, 140951.
A resolution authorizing the Commissioner of Public Property to execute and deliver to the Philadelphia Redevelopment Authority without consideration deeds conveying conditional fees, simple title to certain city-owned lots or pieces of ground with the buildings and improvements thereon, situated in the 51st and 60th wards of the City of Philadelphia.
Thank you. Chair again recognizes Councilwoman Blackwell.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the adoption of the resolution.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor? Those opposed? Ayes have it. Resolution 140951 is adopted. Mr. Decker, 140954.
A resolution authorizing the Commissioner of Public Property to execute and deliver to the Philadelphia Redevelopment Authority, without consideration, deeds conveying conditional fees, simple title to serve city-owned lots of pieces of ground with the buildings and improvements thereon, situated in the 7th and 19th wards of the city of Philadelphia.
Thank you. The chair recognizes Councilwoman Keona Sanchez.
For the adoption.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor? Those opposed? Ayes have it. And Resolution 140954 is adopted. Mr. Decker, 140957.
A resolution authorizing the Commissioner of Public Property to execute and deliver to the Philadelphia Redevelopment Authority, without consideration, deeds conveying conditional fees, simple title to certain city-owned lots of pieces of ground with the buildings and improvements thereon, situated in the 31st ward of the city of Philadelphia.
Chair recognizes Councilman Squilla.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the adoption of the resolution. Second.
Been moved and properly second. All those in favor? Those opposed? Ayes have it. 140957 is adopted. Mr. Decker, 140791.
A resolution appointing Amina Young to the Board of Directors of the Philadelphia Municipal Authority.
Chair recognizes Councilman Greenlee. I'm sorry, Councilman Jones. Adoption.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the adoption.
Been moved and properly second. All those in favor? Those opposed? Ayes have it. Resolution 140791 has been adopted. Mr. Decker, 140792.
A resolution appointing Michelle Lai to the Board of Directors of the Philadelphia Municipal Authority.
Chair again recognizes Councilman Jones.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for its adoption.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor? Those opposed? Ayes have it. 140792 has been adopted. Mr. Decker, 140811.
A resolution confirming the appointment of Joanne A. Epps as a member of the Board of Ethics to serve in the term ending November 16, 2019.
Chair again recognizes Councilman Jones.
Mr. President, I move for the adoption.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor? Those opposed? Ayes have it. And that resolution 140811 is adopted. Mr. Decker, 140812.
A resolution appointing J.S. Feldstein to the Board of Directors of the City Avenue Special Services District of Philadelphia and Lower Merion for a term ending January 5, 2017.
Chair again recognizes Councilman Jones.
And again, I move for the adoption.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor? Those opposed? Ayes have it. And resolution 140812 is adopted. Mr. Decker, 140872.
A resolution appointing Michael Piper to the position of Chief Assessment Officer of the Office of Property Assessment.
Chair recognizes Councilman Jones.
Again, I move for the adoption.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor? All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Ayes have it. 140872 is adopted. Mr. Decker, 130451.
An ordinance amending Section 191806 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Authorization of Realty Use and Occupancy Tax, including by providing for special tax provisions for manufacturers.
Chair recognizes Councilman Heenan.
Thank you, Mr. President. I offer an amendment to Bill number 130451. A copy of the amendment has been circulated to all members of council, and I move for the adoption of the amendment.
Second.
Thank you. The amendment to 130451 has been moved. All those in favor? Those opposed? Ayes have it. 130451 has been amended. The amended bill will be on the next week final passage calendar. Mr. Decker, 130656.
An ordinance amending Title 14 of the Philadelphia Code by further providing for revised sign controls and making technical changes, all under certain terms and conditions, and amending Chapter 9600 by adjusting the licensing fees for commercial outdoor advertising signs and information required in the annual inventory of signs, and amending Chapter 193400 by adjusting the excise tax on outdoor advertising signs.
And the chair again recognizes Councilman Heenan.
Thank you, Mr. President. I offer an amendment to Bill number 130656. A copy of the amendment has been circulated to all members of council, and I move for the adoption of the amendment.
It's been moved and properly seconded, that amendment to 130656. All those in favor? Those opposed? Ayes have it. Bill number 130656 has been amended. It will be placed on our second reading and final passage calendar at our next session of council. Mr. Decker, 140782.
An ordinance amending Title 14 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Zoning and Planning by revising the size requirements for accessory structures for residential uses.
The chair recognizes Councilman O'Neill.
Mr. President, I offer an amendment to Bill number 140782. The amendment has been circulated to all council members, and I move its adoption.
It's been moved and properly seconded that an amendment to 140782. All those in favor? Those opposed? Ayes have it. Bill number 140782 has been amended and will be placed on our second reading and final passage calendar at our next session of council. Mr. Decker, 140638.
An ordinance amending Chapter 193900 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Tax Exemptions for Long-Time Owner Occupants of Residential Properties by amending the eligibility requirements to make eligible properties owned by certain individuals who received assistance in the acquisition of the property as part of a government or nonprofit housing program.
Chair recognizes Councilman Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to offer an amendment to Bill number 140638. A copy of the amendment has been circulated to all members of council. I move for the adoption of the amendment.
The amendment to Bill number 140638 has been moved and seconded. All those in favor? Those opposed? Ayes have it. Bill number 140638 has been amended and will be placed on our second and final reading passage at our next session of council. Mr. Decker, 140830.
An ordinance authorizing the city solicitor on behalf of the city to enter into a multi-year contract with a provider of codification, editing, and marketing services to produce printed and electronic versions of the 11th edition of the Philadelphia Code, a zoning and planning supplement, and the 2015 reprint of the Philadelphia Home Rule Charter, with periodic supplements to each.
This bill has been read on two separate occasions. Question is, shall the bill pass finally? Mr. Decker, call the roll.
Councilwoman Bass. Councilwoman Blackwell. Councilman Good is voting aye. Councilman Greenlee. Councilman Heenan. Councilman Johnson. Councilman Jones. Councilman Kenny. Councilman Nielsen. Councilman O'Brien. Councilman O'Neill. Councilman O. Councilwoman Cornelius Sanchez. Councilwoman Reynolds Brown. Councilman Squilla. Councilwoman Tasco. Council President Clark.
Aye. The ayes are 16 and nays are 0. Majority of members present voting in the affirmative, the bill passes. Mr. Decker, do you have any additional resolutions?
A resolution recognizing and honoring Judge Benjamin Lerner, Senior Judge for Philadelphia Court of Common Pleas, for his years of service to the 1st Judicial District, and after he was chosen to receive the Justice William J. Brenham Jr. Distinguished Juris Award by the Philadelphia Bar Association on December 9, 2014, introduced by Councilman Kenny.
Chair recognizes Councilman Kenny.
Resolution.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Ayes have it, and that resolution is adopted.
And a resolution recognizing, honoring, and remembering the lives of Charles J. Borelli and Roger Cortland, writers and composers of the Philadelphia Eagles victory song, otherwise known as Fly, Eagles, Fly, which has been sung in support of the Philadelphia Eagles for over 60 years, introduced by Councilman Kenny.
Chair again recognizes Councilman Kenny.
Move the adoption of the resolution.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor? Those opposed? Ayes have it, and that resolution is also adopted.
And a resolution authorizing Philadelphia City Council's Committee on Education to conduct public hearings to evaluate the benefits and effectiveness of the Philadelphia Talent Collaborative and other programs that help improve educational outcomes and the economic viability of the city of Philadelphia, introduced by Councilwoman Blackwell.
Chair recognizes Councilwoman Blackwell.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the adoption.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor? Those opposed? Ayes have it, and that resolution is adopted.
And a resolution authorizing City Council's committees on transportation and public utilities and public safety to hold joint hearings concerning side mirror placement on SEPTA buses in Philadelphia, introduced by Councilman Johnson.
Chair recognizes Councilman Johnson.
Yeah, Mr. President, I want to also just say for the record that that bill was sponsored by Councilman Curtis Jones and Councilwoman Cindy Bass. I move for the adoption of the resolution, please.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor? Those opposed? Ayes have it, and that resolution is adopted.
And a resolution honoring, recognizing, and commending the Prep Charter High School football team for its outstanding hard work and determination this season in winning its first ever Public League Class AA championship title, introduced by Councilman Johnson.
Chair again recognizes Councilman Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the adoption of the resolution.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor? Those opposed? The ayes have it, and that resolution is adopted.
And a resolution honoring, recognizing, and commending Monet Davis, the first female Little League baseball player to earn a win and to pitch a shutout in Little League World Series history for capturing the hearts and support of Philadelphians and the nation while leading the Philadelphia Taney Dragons to the Little League World Series, introduced by Councilman Johnson.
Chair recognizes Councilman Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the adoption of the resolution.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor? Those opposed? Ayes have it, and that resolution is adopted.
And a resolution honoring and recognizing the Philadelphia Tribune as a community advocate and vocal champion for African American issues on the occasion of its 130-year anniversary as the oldest continuously published newspaper owned and operated by African Americans, introduced by Councilman Jones.
Chair recognizes Councilman Jones.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for its adoption.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor? Those opposed? Ayes have it, and that resolution is adopted.
And a resolution honoring Judge Annette M. Rizzo for her outstanding leadership in Philadelphia's residential mortgage foreclosure diversion program and wishing her well as she retires from the bench to take on new challenges at JAMS, the largest private alternative dispute resolution provider in the world, introduced by Councilman Jones.
Chair again recognizes Councilman Jones.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for its adoption.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor? Those opposed? Ayes have it, and that resolution is also adopted.
And a resolution honoring and congratulating June Spring on the occasion of her retirement from Owawa, introduced by Councilman O'Neill.
Chair recognizes Councilman O'Neill.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the adoption of the resolution.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor? Those opposed? Ayes have it, and that resolution is adopted.
And a resolution congratulating Overbrook High School and the United States Postal Service for holding a special dedication ceremony commemorating Wilt Chamberlain and his limited edition Forever Stamps, introduced by Councilman O.
Chair recognizes Councilman O.
Thank you, Council President. I move for the adoption of the resolution.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor? Those opposed? Ayes have it, and that resolution is adopted.
And a resolution proclaiming January 13, 2015 as Korean American Day in the city of Philadelphia to celebrate and commemorate the proud heritage of Korean Americans and their invaluable contributions to enhancing the city's culture, economy, and the founding ideals of independence and democracy, introduced by Councilman O.
Chair again recognizes Councilman O.
Thank you. I move for the adoption of the resolution.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor? Those opposed? Ayes have it, and that resolution is adopted.
There are no other resolutions on the calendar for consideration, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, and that concludes our calendar for the day. Are there any speeches on the part of the minority? And Chair recognizes Councilman O.
Thank you very much, Council President. I just wanted to say that with everything being so busy, I just put a small flyer on everyone's desk just to remind them that if they're available tomorrow, among the many things that they're doing, that we do have the PHL Live Center Stage award show tomorrow, and all of the council members are more than invited. You know, the musicians come from all over the city, would be thrilled to have their local representatives there, and so certainly any staff as well. So please come and have a good time there. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Chair recognizes, on the part of the majority, Chair recognizes Councilman Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President and colleagues, last evening, the building that we all work in, the institution that we represent, was marched upon by young people from all different backgrounds in response to the verdict of a young man who was murdered in a situation revolving police officers in New York. Last words were, I can't breathe, I can't breathe, I can't breathe. And you know, as I reflected upon the verdict and watched how young people from all different backgrounds, black and white, marched on the very same building in which I work in, the very same institution in which I represent, I began thinking about my son, a son who was born into a world in which I will do everything possible and my power to make sure that he has a bright future. I will do everything possibly under the grace of God through prayers to make sure that he has a bright future. But I also grappled with how will he lead his life and the advice that I should give him as an African-American young man. I'm an African-American young man growing up in a world that in some instances history has shown us aren't treated as equally as other individuals. And so as a nation, from the president down to local officials and state houses all throughout our country, I hope that we will make sure that as we move this city forward, this state forward, this country forward, that we always keep the issue of justice and equality for all people at the forefront of our agenda. And I understand clearly that our law enforcement officers has a tremendous amount of responsibility in the work that they do. I've started this work as a community activist on creating an organization of Peace Not Guns to do nothing but create a positive relationship between our law enforcement officials and the African-American young men who grew up in Point Breeze. And so as we move forward, I just wanted to just state that for the record, and I grapple hard around these last few decisions that have taken place, and I hear people talking about, well, let's do body cameras. Well, there was a camera when Rodney King was assaulted by officers so many years ago. In New York, there was a camera where that videotaped essentially a young man being choked as he was trying to be subdued, and nevertheless, that didn't change the outcome in either two cases. And so I'm a firm believer that you do the right things for the right reasons, and ultimately, at the end of the day, Black life matters. And I just wanted to state that for the record, because we represent this institution that was marched on last evening. We represent a body that in some cases people look at provides a level of justice, and in some instances, depending on which side you're on, provides a level of injustice when we address the issues that are presented to us in society. And so just want to state that for the record, Mr. President and my colleagues.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Jones, your name got inadvertently bumped down, so you are next.
That's all right. Couldn't happen by a finer council person and a more important message. And I wanted to echo. My speech to the majority was to start out by saying that I am proud to be a member of this body. I look around this body and I've heard comments from every part of this city doing the right thing and motivated. We differ. We differ on issues. We don't differ motivated by race. And for this institution to be at this point is a testament to its leadership, but to its members. And we will argue. We argue, and you manage our arguments, but we argue, but it is not based on the color of the skin, but the content of the legislation. And I'm proud of that. But last night, we had an opportunity. I went down into that courtyard. Councilman Squilla and I had to deal with that issue. And what was meant to be a spiritual time for those who recognize Christmas turned into a frustration that is boiling over, not just in Philadelphia, but around the nation. And the message has to be made from this hall to every hall that life is precious. That the young man, Sean Montgomery, that we need to find, who is missing, his mother cried Saturday when we were doing the rescue efforts. And the salient count in her tears is no different than the salient count of the mother that has to tell her son that his father won't be with him as he grows up to teach him how to ride a bike, teach him how to deal with playground politics, teach him how to get in college. That life is precious. It does not, nobody gets a pass whether you are a assailant that happens to be black, assailant that happens to be white or an assailant that happens to wear blue. All life is precious, from the officer that wants to go home to his family to the young person that wants to be respected in his neighborhood. It is sad. It is sad that when we look at some of the tweets and responses on Facebook to this, that young people are saying to themselves, do I matter? Worse than even that, defend yourself. That they don't think that they're being defended in the communities in which they live. So what we have to be is stewards. Stewards of dealing with these catastrophes. And we don't do it on prejudice, we do it on the facts. And here's some of the facts. That 80% of the murders that happen in the city of Philadelphia happen by people that they know and that people who happen to be of the same race. And that you need to be as outraged about that as it comes down to what happened, unfortunately, in Ferguson and in New York. Nobody gets a pass. Right is right, and I'm proud of my colleagues when they say it. Wrong is wrong, and we will do the right thing as it comes to justice. And it shouldn't just be just us. So I'm proud to be a member of this body. We have some work to do. I'm proud of the fact that President Obama picked our police commissioner to be the pinnacle head of this effort. But charity starts at home. And we need to make sure our streets are safe and that our children believe they are safe. You did a wonderful job of doing the whole sustainability effort. But one of the things that is in your matrix is the perception of safety, not crime statistics, but how do you perceive when you walk around the streets, driving while black, walking while alone? Is there a vacant lot? We have to work on that perception of safety in those barbershops, beauty salons, in the hood. And we're going to do that. We'll do it a little at a time, whether it's Councilman Heenan going around the city with basketballs and dealing with conflict resolutions on our playgrounds, or whether it's Councilman Blackwell fighting for the homeless. We're going to do it one piece of legislation at a time, but we're going to hold everybody's feet to the fire because all life is precious. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilman. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Blackwell.
Thank you, Mr. President. I was especially pleased today as Jim Kenney brought these young people from Neshaminy today. My mother was Native American, and so it had a special significance to me as to what we say and what we call people from other ethnic backgrounds. It just amazes me that in 2014, we still have issues with regard to race and who was here first and who has full rights in this country. It's very, very sad. These are very, very sad days. I'm grateful that our President Obama has spoken out and that our police commissioners on a special task force, our mayor, so many people here, and yourself, of course, have spoken out on this issue. But these are sad days. You know, I remember when Angela Davis said many years ago, when they come for me in the morning, they'll come for you at night. And it just looks like that whole spirit of us not realizing that we're all brothers and sisters under one God, and that, you know, I thought at this point in my life, life would be better, and it looks like we're going backward, not forward. And so I certainly associate myself with all comments made today and ask that we all pray for this country and that we pray that there will become a day, since Councilman Kenyatta Johnson has maybe a 2-month-old son, that who would think that he would still at this time have to talk to his son about what it means to be black in America. But so we all pray that life gets better. We do our parts to be examples of what life can be and what it should be. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Bass.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to first start by echoing the comments made by my colleagues in reference to what's been happening in our country lately, and very, very troubling times indeed. And so, as a surrogate parent of a 25-year-old African-American male, or of any parent, I'm sure at this time, feels like you don't want to let your child out of your sight because you don't know if they're walking back in the door at the end of the day. And it's such a frightening time for all of us. But beyond frightening, it's very frustrating that in 2014, it feels like, my God, we should be done with this conversation already. But yet here we still are. And so, again, it's just a very, very frustrating time. But I did want to take a moment out to acknowledge some folks who came down today and who have been active in the 8th Council District and in the 9th Council District, and really rolled up their sleeves, didn't wait for anybody, didn't wait for a press conference or, any sort of big splash, and just got involved and got started. And that group is the EDGE group. I'm gonna ask them to stand. They've been here all day, and they just, like I said, they rolled up their sleeves and just got started in the community, and started with mentoring and cleaning up and fixing up, and didn't ask us for anything. And then after they got started, said, well, how can we work with you so that we can do more in our community? And so, as I always say, it doesn't rely just on, the council president or the mayor or your city council person. We can all make a difference in our own individual ways. We just got to get started. And so I just really wanted them to come down today and for folks to see that where there is a will, there is a way, and we can make things happen. I do want to acknowledge them by name, and that is Darius Archibald Sr., Darius Archibald Thomas Jr., Larry K. Hankerson, Chris Crisden, Tyrone Barge, Michael Daniels, Craig Buckner, Marie Beamer, and Dawn Buckner. And I really want to thank them for their service, and particularly at this very, very troubling time. We need them. We can't do this alone. We need boots on the ground. We need folks in the street, and we need to reevaluate where we are as a people, as a city, as a nation. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Chair recognizes Councilman Kinney.
Thank you, Mr. President. I do agree with all the remarks of my colleagues relative to the issues and conditions in our country today. When Barack Obama was elected in 2008, I watched the Millennium Park ceremony where he accepted the presidency, and was very much enthused about where our country was going. In some ways, I thought we had gotten over a racial hump because we had first time in our history an African-American president. It seemed to just pull out all the craziness, all the crazies even more. They could not get over the fact that that man was President of the United States, and then began to raise themselves up above their hidden corners and closets and basements and came out into the open, and then issue this invective across the internet and all the other places where these people anonymously sow their evil thoughts. So I think this country has a lot of issues that they need to deal with. But the one thing I wanted to raise today is I think we should all consider ourselves very lucky that we live in a city like Philadelphia, where we came into office I came into office in 1992. We had the luck and good fortune to have police commissioners like John Timoney and others that have gone after him, and also with our current commissioner, Charles Ramsey, today. We have dealt with dissent and protest in this city in a remarkably progressive and intelligent way, going back to the RNC when a group of people wanted to protest in the city against the Republican National Convention and were overturning trash cans and planters and causing havoc in our city streets. And our officers, under the direction of Commissioner Timoney at the time, dealt with that, but dealt with it in an intelligent way without breaking heads, without cracking people. Without the Arnold Schwarzenegger military gear that we see all across this country. Today, sadly, our officers police with bicycles in windbreaker jackets and their bike helmets. They keep people safe. They keep property safe. We went through the RNC. We went through Occupy Philly, where Commissioner Ramsey required that every roll call outside the Occupy site, the officers read the First Amendment. And they were understood that they were there to protect the First Amendment and protect people and protect property and protect themselves. But we had protests all the time in the city, whether it's large events or whether it's things relating to Ferguson or New York's decision not to indict the officer for the chokehold. But we have a city and a police department and a police command that respect people's rights to dissent and to express their views and to march when they want to march and march where they want to march and keep things under control without tear gas, without batons. And that's why I'm proud of living in this city and being policed by a police department that sometimes makes mistakes, there's no doubt. There are issues that are raised every now and then that are a mistake. But generally, we're a progressive police department who respect people's rights in general and allow people to dissent when they need to dissent, to allow the vents to be open and the steam to be released without havoc in the street and chaos. Officers every day making arrests get punched and kicked and stomped and wrestled with, but they don't kill our citizens every day. They don't shoot them. They may have to arrest them, and that arrest sometimes may be a physical act, but they don't pull out their guns initially and shoot people. And I just want to make sure that we understand that, and as my other colleagues have said, policing is a difficult thing. You need to use intelligence. You need to use common sense. You need to give respect to receive respect. And I think our officers are learning that and being trained that every day, and I'm very proud of the way they react. I'm very proud of the way our citizens react. And sometimes during a Christmas ceremony, dissent is not pretty, but it's dissent, and it's the First Amendment, and sometimes it's awkward and sometimes it's difficult to take, but we take it and we listen to it and we move on. Rodney King's beating in Los Angeles years ago did not fester in the city of Philadelphia the way it did in other cities. We were tense, but we were polite, we were cordial to each other, and we understood each other when Council President Street and Mayor Rendell went on television together to talk about common peace and self-respect and respect for others. That's the tone that we need to set in this city, that's being set in this city, and we will not be Ferguson, Missouri. We will not be some of these other places. We are Philadelphia. We are together, we are strong, and we love this city, but we still have a right to express our opinions when we want to. So I want to thank the Police Commissioner Ramsey, all of his command staff, all the street officers, all the people who are sergeants and lieutenants who are out there every day on those bikes and on those horses, keeping people safe, keeping property safe, and allowing people to express their First Amendment rights. That's what this country and that's what this city's all about. So I thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Johnson? You did? Yeah. Okay. That concludes our remarks by minority and majority, and the chair recognizes Councilman Greenlee for a motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the council stand adjourned until Thursday, December 11, 2014 at 10 a.m.
And a second? Second. We'll move to probably second. The council stand adjourned until Thursday, 2014, 10 a.m. All those in favor say aye. Ayes approved. Thank you all very much.